Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Shravanam Diaries Podcast.
Hare Krishna, everyone. We're continuing to read the Bhagavad Gita as it is the book by His Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Chapter 12. We're starting Chapter 12 today, entitled Devotional Service. Text 1. Arjuna Uvacha Evam satata yukta ye bhaktastvam paryupasate ye chapyaksharam avyaktam tesham ke yoga vittamaha. Arjuna inquired, which are considered to be more perfect? Those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested? Purport. Krishna has now explained about the personal, the impersonal, and the universal, and has described all kinds of devotees and yogis. Generally, the Transcendentalists can be divided into two classes. One is the Impersonalist, and the other is Personalist. The Personalist devotee engages himself with all energy in the service of the Supreme Lord. The Impersonalist also engages himself not directly in the service of Krishna, but in meditation on the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested. We find in this chapter that of the different processes for realization of the absolute truth, Bhakti Yoga, devotional service, is the highest. If one at all desires to have the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then he must take to devotional service. Those who worship the Supreme Lord directly by devotional service are called Personalists. Those who engage themselves in meditation on the impersonal Brahman are called Impersonalists. Arjuna is here questioning which position is better. There are different ways here. There are different ways to realize the absolute truth. But Krishna indicates in this chapter that Bhakti Yoga, or devotional service to Him, is the highest of all. It is the most direct and it is the easiest means for association with the Godhead. In the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Lord explained that a living entity is not the material body. He is a spiritual spark. And the absolute truth is the spiritual whole. In the 7th chapter, he spoke of the living entity as being part and parcel of the Supreme Whole, and recommended that he transfer his attention fully to the whole. Then again, in the 8th chapter, it was said that anyone who thinks of Krishna at the time of quitting his body is at once transferred to the spiritual sky, to the abode of Krishna. And at the end of the 6th chapter, the Lord clearly said that of all yogis, one who always thinks of Krishna within himself is considered the most perfect. So, in practically every chapter, the conclusion has been that one should be attached to the personal form of Krishna, for that is the highest spiritual realization. Nevertheless, there are those who are not attached to the personal form of Krishna. They are so firmly detached that even in the preparation of commentaries to Bhagavad Gita, they want to distract other people from Krishna and transfer all devotion to the impersonal Brahmajyoti. They prefer to meditate on the impersonal form of the absolute truth, which is beyond the reach of the senses and is not manifest. And so, factually, there are two classes of transcendentalists. Now, Arjuna is trying to settle the question of which process is easier and which of the classes is most perfect. In other words, he is clarifying his own position because he is attached to the personal form of Krishna. He is not attached to the impersonal Brahman. He wants to know whether his position is secure. The impersonal manifestation, either in this material world or in the spiritual world of the Supreme Lord, is a problem for meditation. Okay, it's a problem for meditation. Actually, one cannot perfectly conceive of the impersonal feature of the Absolute Truth. Therefore, Arjuna wants to say, what is the use of such a waste of time? Arjuna experienced in the 11th chapter that to be attached to the personal form of Krishna is the best. But because he could thus understand all other forms at the same time, and there was no disturbance to his love for Krishna. This important question asked of Krishna by Arjuna will clarify the distinction between the impersonal and personal conceptions of the Absolute Truth. Okay, never record an episode when you're supposed to go somewhere. Hare Krishna. Jai. So, it's like with chanting japa, it takes as much time to chant your rounds attentively as it takes to chant your rounds inattentively. So it will take as much time to read attentively than to have your mind jumping somewhere. It's a very... sometimes we think that we are personalists and impersonalists are somewhere far away and we don't know where they are. But actually, sometimes I heard devotees exclaim that impersonalism is actually deeply rooted within ourselves also. Because of impersonalism, that's like manifestation of materialism in some way. So, text number 2. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Maya Veshyamano Yemam Nitya Yukta Upasate Shradhaya Parayopetas Te Me Yukta Tamamataha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect. Purport. In answer to Arjuna's question, Krishna clearly says that he who concentrates upon his personal form and who worships him with faith and devotion is to be considered most perfect in yoga. For one, in such Krishna consciousness there are no material activities because everything is done for Krishna. A pure devotee is constantly engaged. Sometimes he chants, sometimes he hears or reads books about Krishna, or sometimes he cooks prasadam or goes to the marketplace to purchase something for Krishna, or sometimes he washes the temple or the dishes. Whatever he does not let a single moment pass without devoting his activities to Krishna. Such action is in full samadhi. Jai. We shall continue tomorrow, because tomorrow Krishna will explain what is the position of those who worship the unmanifest. All right. Enjoy. It's actually funny because I was just I was washing dishes and cooking and washing dishes, right? Prabhupada says whatever he does not let a single moment pass without devoting activities to Krishna. So we're washing dishes and we're listening to Jugala Mataji, Hare Krishna, God forbid, Jugala Mataji and Jagadish Prabhu giving class, and they were saying that Srila Prabhupada, he would never rush anywhere, but he was always everywhere on time. And Jagadish Prabhu was saying that, there are people who are always rushing somewhere, and you can see that it's difficult for them to do many things. But basically, he was explaining the value of time, respecting time, and I was thinking, like, is he talking about me? Like people who are always rushing everywhere and trying to do many things simultaneously. I have had that for a long time. Maybe that's what happens when you have many different desires. You want to do this, you want to do that, you want to help these, you want to spend time with them, and you want to dedicate this, and you want to learn that, and everything becomes one big I'm late and everything. So yeah, but actually this is also you can say that this is a manifestation of being a little bit impersonal as well, because right now I'm trying to word it out in order to correct myself and in order to not make the same mistake again. Say I come to Bhagavad Gita and I've had like 2 Saturday Q&A sessions where I was describing that Bhagavad Gita is a person, that it's a personality, and I come to the person and I read it as a sense of duty and a sense of daily reading, and I want to read it, otherwise I would not be reading it. But your mind is somewhere else, and it's the same with chanting, that we're calling Krishna but we're not giving him due attention. So yeah, and it's a practice basically to always come back and maybe even apologize to Bhagavad Gita or promise that you will do better. And it was a beautiful purport, like no doubt recording, and I will listen to this episode also myself. So the description of personalists and impersonalists. And because maybe it's also symbolical that I mentioned that we can be impersonal sometimes, and Krishna is saying something, Krishna's devotee is saying something, and that's attention. What else? Focus, right? Attention, being personal. Like in I think in Brahminical culture and ethics also, when we were learning empathic listening and eye messages, and how brahmanas or devotees, Vaishnavas communicate, like they look in the eyes, they're attentive, and basically it's like in Kali Yuga we have degraded so much that we don't even like we're talking to somebody, you don't even look them in the eyes, or you don't even like pay attention, or you don't listen, you don't try to you don't have that connection. Basically, being personal meaning to have that connection, right? Have that connection with the Lord, right? That's what it means to be personal. But if we are impersonalists, it doesn't just mean that you just meditate on the unmanifest. If we're on the material level, we consider ourselves to be a lump of matter, we consider our friends to be a lump of matter, and we're concentrating on dead matter, which means that how can you be very personal to matter? Though I know that some people, they're so soft-hearted that they talk to inanimate objects, and that's like our soul crying for that desire to be personal. But when we don't hear the other person, so it's like in the spiritual world everything is conscious, and being impersonal means not being conscious of others, of ourselves. Yeah, that's a big topic. Wow, and that's the opening for devotional service. Look at that. All right. Okay then. Okay, I think I've said everything I wanted to say. Hare Krishna. Yeah, we'll read tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in today. The book links, previous episodes timeline, and biography of the author can be found on shravanamdiaries.com. The link is in the description, and we shall see you tomorrow.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare